Thanks, everybody. I'd like to call the meeting to order. If you would, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First item on the agenda, well, it's roll call. Chris, can you do the roll call?
Sure. Marion Bonds?
You're on mute, Marion.
Okay. No Marion?
No, Marion's here. She's on mute.
Oh, okay. Good, sir. Got it. Tom Euclides?
I was having trouble unmuting,
There
sorry.
she goes.
Nope. Gotcha. And we got Tom, Patrick Kelsey. Absent.
No Patrick tonight. Nope.
Mike Hammond.
Present.
Mildred McNeil James.
Present.
Joe Yen.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of September 3rd, 2020.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of September 3rd, 2020.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Motion was by Mildred, second was by Marion.
Mildred McNeil James.
Yes.
Joe Yen.
Yes.
Marion Bond.
yes?
Tom Euclides.
Yes.
Mike Hammond.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, this portion of the meeting is where we open it up to public comments for anything not on tonight's agenda. If it's on tonight's agenda, we will cover it when the agenda comes up, the agenda item comes up. So Jared, is there anybody in the meeting or in the Village Hall that would like to speak this evening? Village Hall that would like to speak?
Let's see.
Uh,
No, I don't have any comments on Facebook.
Well, we'll move on to the next item. Item 6, items for Plan Commission action. A, 2020-008 public hearing and consideration of a special use for outdoor storage accessory to a public use with alternative services at Baseline Road, Central States Bus Sales. Planner Chipman.
Thanks, Jared. Thanks, Jared. It's good to see you all. Haven't been here for a while. So we had some comments, as Jared mentioned, primarily with the floodplain and utilities, and it's good to talk to the floodplain issues and stormwater issues first. The main issues is we just need some more detail on the stormwater report for how they're handling their best management practices, and their intent is to use the pore space within the gravel parking lot layer as the best management practice. They feel there's good underlying soils for infiltration, so they're going to be providing some documentation on the soil testing to confirm that. That would address that concern in the ordinance. But the larger concern then is the floodplain area. It's kind of a unique floodplain in that it is associated with what's known as the Montgomery overflow, which is an overflow that occurs out of Blackberry Creek into this watershed, and then also that splits at Route 30 to the west of here. So the 100-year floodplain, the way the split works is not a particularly large floodplain, but in larger events, the 500-year floodplain is significantly larger than the 100-year floodplain. So my primary concern is with the entrance drive. And that the entrance drive is built up and they have culverts underneath it that are sized adequately for the 100-year flow, but it doesn't allow for an overflow. So in the larger events, you would potentially be backing water up beyond the property line. Some of the other there's other driveways to the east of here. They generally, I believe, go down from the road across the floodplain and then back up, so that there is an overland overflow route. So I'm going to work with their engineer to look at what we can do to create an overflow here, so that the higher flood events can get across. I know they have some concerns with slopes, so I think some combination of the culverts that he's using plus some drop in elevation, so that we can create an overflow that's sized so that we won't back up water higher than the existing 500-year floodplain event can be worked out. But that is a big concern that's going to have to be worked out before the engineering would be approved. Then the other big issue is the utilities for the water and sewer service. And the proposal is to, I don't know if Jared, you want to switch over to the utility plan, which is a couple sheets or a couple sheets down from where you're at. Okay. That's great. Yeah, one more, I think. Oh, no, you're right. You were there. I steered you wrong. So the water main loops from Baseline Road up north of the building and then to the east over to the dead end on Boar Avenue. And the sanitary line comes from the building and goes to the east to Boar Avenue. The sticking point right now is that you can see it labeled as future right-of-way. So that right-of-way doesn't exist now. So I know that plat is in a process with Kane County, but we cannot, construct village water main and sanitary sewer service that's not in a right-of-way or an easement. So those items will have to be maintained or obtained in a fashion that meets the timeline of this project. Otherwise, they'd have to do an alternate. The water main might have to loop down back around the building and back to Baseline. There's other options, but that's just one of the things that'll have to be worked out timing wise. We need to make sure that right of way is granted or easements are granted with an agreement with that adjacent property owner, which is I don't know if Jared mentioned, that property is unincorporated, not part of the village. And that's the kind of the highlights, the summary of our report, unless there's any questions.
I'm Doug Donaldson with Central States Bus Sales. I am the general manager of our Northern Illinois facility, which we currently have out in Big Rock, Illinois. Excuse me. We cover 5 states, so we're a good-sized company. Our home office is in St. Louis. We have facilities up here, St. Louis, Arkansas, Tennessee, and Kentucky. So we've been in business up here now for 15 years and have gained a lot of steam and way outgrown the facility that we're in today and looking for a more permanent facility. We've been looking for a while and ran across this piece of property that looks like it could very well fit our needs and look hopefully to moving forward with that. I'll be glad to answer any questions someone might have. It does. I think the best way to give you an idea is today we employ 20 full-time and 5 part-time year-round. And then during the summer, I bring in about another 15 part-time for summer work. As far as traffic from buses, our goal varies depending on workload and such, but obviously our busy time is June 1st through the 1st of September. That's when the most of our traffic would happen. And even when that happens, we try to deliver 10 to 12 buses a day. So in a sense, there's 10 new buses leaving the lot every day to go on a delivery. I don't think we create a very large traffic flow, but I'm not quite sure how to explain it to you. Mm-hmm. In the overview of the year, to give you an idea, we will, seems like our average is kind of leveled out to the point that we move between 600 and 700 units a year. So, and like I said, 80% of that is going to happen in those 4 months in the summer.
Mr. Donaldson, I have a question. How many entry-exit sites are at this location?
Just the main entrance off of Baseline is the only one.
Baseline is the only entrance?
Yes. It's the only entrance exit from the property.
Okay.
Hey, Jared, how big is that encroachment on 30, on the 30 side?
The setback is quite, excuse me, is quite substantial, and it was designed to be set back from kind of the main road so that if you did have some rocks on your tires, etc., that you would kind of get those off. So it's 250 feet. So in the case of the Michaels development, that's how it was really framed, was that any large vehicles would come through the pavement for 250 feet and get any of the rocks off of it. So in this case, though, Route 30 is right in the backyard, and so it probably encroaches substantially there, several hundred feet.
And Tim, you don't see any issue with that large of an encroachment at all, or?
Oh, from an engineering
Yeah, from an engineering,
standpoint?
yeah.
No, we have it, as when we set up the standard, we're using a CA7 aggregate with IDOT aggregate, which is a wash stone. to help control dust, and that it has no fines in it.
Okay.
And as the petitioner mentioned, it's not a lot of, daily traffic. So I don't anticipate a dust problem.
Okay.
And otherwise, yeah, engineering wise, I don't see a problem with it.
Is this the
Especially
same? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, especially as Jared noted, without access to 30, and part of the reason that
Yeah.
the setback was to, to clear the rocks out of the tire treads and such.
Sure. Is this the same type of aggregate that was used at Michael's, or?
Yes, it is. And it is the aggregate size that is, excuse me, the one that's called out in the ordinance. It is the
Okay.
size that's called out in the ordinance, so.
I have a question about Route 30. At this location, Route 30 is currently still 2-lane, is that correct?
That is correct.
And yet we know that it will become a 4-lane road. So does this in any way impinge on the easement for 30 to expand?
That is a great question. I do know that the Phase 1 study is largely completed for that portion of Route 30. We can verify that. That is one of the reasons why we have a decent setback off of 30 for the storage area. So if the state did eat into that, the fence may end up being pushed back or something of that nature. But that is something that we could take a look at to see how potential acquisition of right-of-way would affect that northern boundary.
So everything to the north of the building and pretty much anything west is aggregate, correct? The rest looks like it's asphalt?
Yes, that's correct.
Uh,
There's
Okay, what about the driveway from baseline all the way through the floodplain? Is that asphalt as well, or?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
All the way around the building is asphalt, and that's
Yep.
partially due to, I'm sure the practice of their facility, but also fire protection requires that as well.
Here, Tom here, just, on page 3, there's talking about the parking islands. The revised plan needs to reflect the island requirements. So that will be one of the stipulations to have those as part of the agreement.
So I'm glad you brought that up. I have spoken with the petitioner about parking islands. The parking islands are in the landscape section, and there's some flexibility in the landscape section that talks about, if the village deems parking islands appropriate, et cetera. So, that is something that we could certainly talk about this evening and build in either way into a recommendation.
I had a question. So are the buses that will be in the storage area, are they going to be brand new buses, or are they going to be older buses that you're reselling?
They would be a combination of both. Depends on the time of the year. For example, and the other thing I wanted to point out too is, although we show, I think there's something like 238 parking spaces out there. Typically, we never have that many. The most I've ever had in my possession at one time was about 180. And of that 180, it was probably 50-50 new and used. Today, on the property that we have today, I currently have about 100 buses, give or take 5. I'm somewhere between 95 and 105 buses today. And because of the time of season that exists today, that inventory will only dwindle between now and the 1st of May. And usually in the 1st of May is when we start bringing in new product. And we usually bring in about 100 new buses in May and June, and then we start rolling that new fleet to where we're rolling anywhere from 45 to 55 buses a week. And so every week there's 45 to 50 going and 45 to 50 new ones coming in.
So my main question is going to be more if you're going to store buses that are in disrepair that would, potentially lead leaking fluids and other toxic items.
Everything that comes onto the lot, it came off of a school bus route somewhere. So our goal is to repair those and get them back out as quick as we can. So right now we're in that phase of going through our inventory that's there and selling it and repairing as it goes. But no, nothing sits around with leaking chemicals and things of that nature. One of the things that we've kind of pride ourselves in is keeping a very nice, clean facility. And where we're located now is out in rural Kane County. And I appreciate that I've had a board member with Kane County stop me a couple of times. I'm not sure even how this person knew me, but they stopped and told me that the county very much appreciated the way that we handled ourselves and that we kept our property extremely clean. So that's just kind of what we're about. And no, we do not keep scrap and things around. If I have a bus that has no value, I won't sit on it very long. It's going to go to the scrapyard.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to go ahead and open up the public hearing. If anybody is online or in Village Hall would like to comment on this, go right ahead and then we'll continue discussion.
If I may real quick, Chris, are there any more comments in the YouTube live chat?
Nope, I don't have anything.
Okay, thank you. There's still no one here in the audience to comment.
Okay, with that, no comments. I will close the public hearing and go through the findings of fact and open it up again for commissioners for further questions or comments. So that the establishment, maintenance, or operation of the special use will not be detrimental to endanger the public health, safety, comfort, or general welfare. Staff's response: the proposed gravel surface has the potential to affect the health, safety, comfort, or general welfare of the surrounding properties. However, it is of staff's opinion that the proposed restrictions and the maintenance provisions will adequately mitigate the dust concerns. B, that the special use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other properties in the immediate vicinity for the purpose already permitted, not substantially diminish or impair property values within the neighborhood. Response: this should not be injurious or diminish property values, as proposed restrictions and maintenance provisions should adequately mitigate dust concerns and landscape/fencing buffering. C, that the establishment of the special use would not impede normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding properties for use permitted in the district. Response: the proposed use does not prohibit use of surrounding property and is normal and orderly. D, that adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and or necessary facilities have been or are being provided. Adequate roads and drainage have been planned for. E, that adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide ingress and egress so designed as to minimize traffic congestion in public streets. Response: the property provides adequate ingress and egress. F, that the special use shall in all other respects conform to applicable regulations of the district in which it's located, except as such regulations may in each instance be modified by the village board pursuant to recommendations of the Plan Commission. All aspects proposed in the development have been submitted to this point that do not meet the zoning ordinance have been discussed in the above report and recommendations have been made accordingly. Plan Commissioners, any concerns or comments at the findings of fact or anything else for the petitioner or Jared?
I have a concern. I was wondering in terms of improving the landscaping that is by the subdivision. That landscaping, if I'm not mistaken, the current landscaping seems to be thin. And I would tend to think that the homeowners, even though there's a fence, would benefit more in terms of property value as well as just everyday living if there were, if that landscaping was better, that had more to it. I mean, it looks to be some of the homeowners' backyard, and they look at that fence, whereas they would probably prefer to look at greenery. I'd like some feedback from others in terms of their thoughts about that.
Which side are you referring to?
I'm looking at the,
Is it the west side there? Or where is, yeah.
yeah. Just going around the entitled, one that, I'm trying to find my page. It runs, hold on. Yeah, it runs on the west, but I think it also hits the backyard of the individuals. Yeah, here it is. The existing homes that are both at the baseline and goes down around in terms of toward
So the one west, the existing house with the existing garage on the west side, and the existing house on the east side.
yes. But I think the landscaping that is in front of, that really does, yeah, affect the site for those three homes that I believe are on the west.
Mm-hmm.
I just, think that that whole concept could have another review.
Would mention
Jared.
along that fence is that's a solid wood fence. It's not a see-through fence. It is something that we plan to keep and maintain.
Mm-hmm.
How tall is that fence?
We were told it's 8 feet.
8 feet, okay.
So I've spoken with the petitioner about this item, and we've talked a little bit about possibly shifting a few trees from not from the front along baseline, but from the fence in front of the building, possibly shifting some material to that location to greater strengthen that landscaping. I've also talked to them about a little bit more diversity of species, because our tree, I apologize, because our tree list actually prohibits the flowering pears, the Callery pears. The Arboretum has come out and stated that they're invasive now for Northern Illinois. So yeah, we're certainly willing to work with them on changing things.
Okay. If it gets another review with this, the sensitivity of homeowners and their perspective view, I think that would be beneficial to our current residents for them. The other question I had, Jared, and I think this is just more, I couldn't find it. How many fire hydrants are located on the property?
That is a good question. Possibly Engineer T-Bird.
Yes, there's one on the east and west sides of the building.
So there are two, one on the east.
Then there's actually another hydrant for the Siamese connection. So I guess actually a total of 3.
Okay, thank you. I could not find all of them. Has the fire department submitted their findings and considerations?
Yes,
Yes.
they recently have submitted their comments.
I don't think they're included in the package, are they? Or maybe I missed them.
They were not. I can send those out.
Yeah. Do you happen to have them in front of you or no?
I can certainly. I can
You
get
just
that.
put them up on the screen.
Yeah, just a minute. Let me take you off share and pull those up.
It's Oswego Fire Protection, right?
It's actually Montgomery Countryside.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Okay, you can possibly see them now. It talks about the gravel portions of the property shall support fire department emergency vehicles weighing with a weight of 80,000 pounds. Property owner shall maintain all gravel portions of the property. They shall be free of potholes, ruts, and snow in the winter. Shall have paved access to all portions of any structure. Shall have fire hydrants within 150 feet of all portions of any structure. Shall have a fire hydrant within 50 feet of the fire department connection. All fire hydrants shall be connected to the Village of Montgomery water supply. Fire hydrants shall not be blocked by buses or other vehicle parking. Shall supply architectural plans for review and permit to Montgomery Countryside Fire Protection District. Shall purchase a lockbox for the gate and supply keys to all gates, doors, locks, and fire alarm equipment. If the gate is electric, then you shall install a key switch to control the gate and supply a key for the lockbox. When he says electric, I believe he means a mechanical gate, not an electrified fence. Shall install a fire alarm on any structure that is 2,000 square feet or larger. Shall install a sprinkler system on any structure that is 7,500 square feet or larger. Shall have address mounted on the building and at the entrance gate. Address shall be a minimum of 4 inches tall, contrasting color, and then shall pay the plan review fee.
Okay. So no deficiencies or anything as of now.
Correct. More, and a
Yeah,
lot of
just-
these are very standard items, the lock
Yeah.
boxes, et cetera.
Okay. So just one more question for the petitioner. Basically, it's just storage of buses on here, right? Nothing, no other type of storage or?
Commercial and school bus. I would tell you that it's almost always 80% school bus.
I didn't hear the first part. You were kind of muted out or something. What was it?
It would only be commercial and school bus.
Okay, so
With-
commercial
With
buses.
80%, yeah, 80% of it being school bus.
Okay. Are there any further comments or questions from the commissioners?
Oh, do you plan to have any fuel storage? Like large fuel storage?
We currently do not store any fuel on site, and there's no plan to.
Okay, if there's no further questions, I'll look for a motion from the commissioners.
Did Tom's concern get addressed? Jared, the one that he mentioned?
I was feeling it should be part of the motion that it needs to be addressed, the islands.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear all of that, Tom.
I feel it should be part of the motion that the islands need to be addressed. I'm not quite, at least I'm not understanding. I understand about landscaping, but is the petitioner not willing or wanting to put in islands?
Is that a question?
That's a question to either Jared or the petitioner.
Yeah, and I think the petitioner could probably weigh in on that. They currently do not show parking lot islands. As I mentioned previously, this is something that can be recommended for addition or left out due to the flexibility in the zoning ordinance. But I was wondering if the petitioner could shed some light on their stance on the parking lot islands. Mr. Dodson, I think you're a little too far away from your mic. It doesn't pick up for us.
Is that a little better?
Yes.
I'll try and speak up a little bit. I'm one of those soft speakers, but I think maybe John can help me with that a little bit, because I haven't been in on all the details. And I do remember something about islands, but I don't know where that went. And I know that was something that the president of our company and John were working on. Do you have something on that, John?
Yeah, I had discussions with Jeff Wrights on that, and the main reason why they don't want the islands protruding into the parking lot is mainly for maintenance and safety reasons. Just the chance of say a bus tire hitting the curb. They just feel it's just safer without them. They prefer to move the landscaping somewhere else than to put a landscape island in. So that was his main concern, was safety.
I could support that, understanding how large buses are, and as long as the landscaping is being put somewhere else, I'm not gonna say it's not.
Absolutely. I mean, if it was a public parking lot, I could see it, but here this is fenced off, and definitely I think the landscaping could be used elsewhere.
I agree. Now that I have a further understanding of why they're not
That's all good.
having it's a good answer they gave. So I can support not having the islands.
Okay. That sounds safer to me.
Go ahead, Mildred.
I make a recommendation to approve for the approval of PC 2020-008, special use for outdoor storage accessory, to use a principal use with alternative surfaces located at 30 Baseline Road, pending all of the issues that Jared had mentioned do reach resolution. And that the surface variance request be granted and under the conditions noted.
Okay, have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Chris?
Marion.
Mildred McNeil James,
Yes.
Joe Young,
Yes.
Marion Bond,
Yes.
Tom Yekitis,
Yes.
Mike Hammond.
Yes. So the motion will move to the village board on Monday, October 12th.
Mr. Donaldson, I really think that you're joining Montgomery and using this site is, beneficial to both hopefully you and your company and to us. That's a as far as I'm concerned, that is a difficult piece of land to put to a very good use. And it
Yes.
seems though you have done that.
Thank you.
Look forward to it. It's when we first looked at the property, it was actually a little bigger property than we were actually looking for. But then when we looked at the floodplain and the detention areas and what they absorb, really makes it more of a usable site for us. And we look forward to becoming a part of Montgomery.
We look forward to having you. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is 2020-009, consideration of a final plat for Unit 3 of Balmorhea subdivision, Ryan Holmes. Leonard Shipman.
All right, thank you very much. Before you this evening is kind of a follow-up to what you saw at the last month's Planning Commission meeting. So Ryan Holmes had originally come through for an annexation agreement amendment. The village board the Planning Commission recommended denial of that product in particular, and now they're before you with a request for a change in the final plat for subdivision. So a little bit of history, the annexation agreement that was signed a few years ago for this development discussed architectural elevations and giving staff some review and approval authority if staff thought that it was in substantial conformance with what was out there. So we certainly felt that the last product potentially did not meet that standard, and we brought that to you. However, now the petitioner has brought forward a different proposal, which is in your packet, and staff has since approved that based on the annexation agreement language. So the issue, though, and the reason why we have to come back to you tonight for this change is that the current plat of subdivision for Unit 3 in Balmorhea, the interior lot lines on the plat are just a little too thin. So the new units being proposed are actually a little wider. It goes from 27 feet to 28 feet. So instead of just redrawing all of those interior parcel lines, the petitioner is requesting us to take a little different approach, and staff is in favor of this approach to work on more of a building footprint perspective. So before you this evening is a final plat that shows more of that building footprint perspective. It does still need to have final review and approval by engineering, so we are recommending approval of this final plat pending the village engineer's final review. I do have a couple other exhibits. I have the old plat on hand if you want to see it, etc. So please let me know if you do have any questions. With that, I wanted to turn it over to Mr. Shelton with Ryan Holmes, the petitioner.
Thanks, Jared. Appreciate it. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So thanks for your time tonight. As Jared mentioned, we saw you a couple weeks ago and got your feedback regarding the other plan. Have come back before and present an alternative plan, and would like to continue to go forward with the townhome component of Montgomery. As you'll see, staff's reviewed the elevations, which are very similar to what's currently built. As you may recall, there's 2 buildings of 4 units that are built in the community. There are an additional 52 units remaining to be built. None of the density has changed, and we're proposing the new final plat would contain, the building envelopes would be identical to what was originally out there. However, when the original plat was recorded a number of years ago by the original developer, they went ahead and platted the individual units. All the units are 4-unit buildings. And so the original plat had, for example, 27-foot units on the interiors and typically 35-foot units on the exteriors. And our units are 28 feet uniform. And so what we're proposing is to keep the same building envelope and for a final plat. And then when the buildings are built, which is pretty typical when we build them and the foundations are up, then we subdivide into each of the units and give a legal description. And there's already a PIN number associated with those units and assign it to the individual units. So no density change, building envelope changes, and it's really just a matter of re-subdividing the area or the units within the envelope.
Okay. So you're saying 28 for all 4 units in each building?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
There will be, based on the services and the FACP, the fire room, one depending on where that service is located, on the end of one of those end units will be the fire room. But there's the envelope allows and has enough width for that.
That's fine. Jared, do you know where the fire room is right now in the 2 existing, or?
Ooh, I guess I am not 100%
Okay.
certain of that. Sorry.
Are these sprinklered buildings?
Yes.
They are.
The existing are
Nice.
sprinkled, and the proposed are as well.
Great. Okay. If there's any further questions from commissioners, this is, when was the original approved, Jared? Do you remember? Do you have?
I believe I do have the original plat. I believe it was approved in 2006.
Wow.
As either, yeah, it would have been about 2005, 2006.
I'm getting old. Man.
Jared, I do have a question, just maybe more curious or how it was accomplished. I know you're talking about the plat of land where it's being adjusted, but how can you still keep the same amount of townhomes and go to 2-car garages? Something, I guess I'm thinking something needs to give, either the size of the townhomes or open space, or am I missing something?
What's currently in the community are all 2-car garage units.
Right. I mean, the previous, you're going with a 1-car garage and having another driveway going up to the doorway. So now we have a 2-car garage. How are we making up for that space of a 2-car garage without lowering the density or giving up open space? That's why I'm trying to wrap my head around that, unless.
Is it a reduction in living space is what I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a fair comment. No, so the units that we discussed a few weeks back, those were 24-foot wide, but they were considerably deeper, because you may recall that had a master down bedroom. But they were, from a living square footage space, were about 1,600 square feet. These units are 28 foot wide, which is pretty typical for a 2-car townhome, but are like the other ones are 2-story, but a full 2-story, very similar to what's built out there, and a little over 1,700 square feet, but they're not quite as deep because they're also wider and they have a full second floor living space.
Okay, good. That's answers my question. Thank you.
Yeah, it looks,
Sorry, go ahead.
go ahead, Jared. No,
I just
I'm good.
wanted to inform you that this is the current final plat, so you can see the difference, and it does say it had a completion date of '06 on it.
completion date. Oh, man. Okay.
Lot 17 next to that other building is still tight. Why? That I have a concern about that. That looks like it's a calling card for property line issues between owners, or am I missing something? That is there any way to alleviate that a little bit better? Mr. Shelton?
Let me, sorry, unmute there. Well,
Yeah, lot
Yeah.
lot 17 in that corner there.
yeah, I see your, I don't, without doing a survey, I don't know what the end dimensions are between those two homes, but so our units are 28 foot wide. I believe, Jared, are you able to blow up the original plat?
Looks like it's still about 6.5 inches between.
6.5 feet, I believe.
6.5. Yeah, sorry.
I can, which would you prefer? This is the proposed. I
Yeah,
can-
do you have the original plat handy?
Yes. Apologize, 1 second, please. So in
Not the
this
same.
case, instead of 17.
No, it's 17. So keep scrolling over to the,
If I'm not mistaken, in the
Yeah, I think
future
that's
plat,
17
this
right
is
there.
the one that's labeled
oh, I'm
17.
sorry, you were talking built okay.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, 56, 55, 54, and 53 are lot 17.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I was looking at the old plat.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yes. So our units are all uniform 28 feet. So, and we are, and they don't have any additions to that. We're keeping the same plat from an envelope just for simplicity, but our actual construction, if you see the two interior units, the original design was 27. So we're 28, which means that instead of having 35-foot units on either side, we'll have 28-foot units on either side. So we'll actually have an extra, let's see, an additional 6 feet.
Right.
Not be built, on lot 56, because our unit's going to be about 6 feet more narrow than what was originally proposed.
Okay. That's going to reduce how tight it is. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
And so that's 12 feet overall for each of the units or each of the lots then, right? Because you're picking 6 feet on one end and 6 feet on the other end.
Most of the units are that. There's a couple of them that are 32 feet on the ends, but by and large, we're going to pick up, a handful of feet between, more space between each of the units, because our total building envelope will be a little bit smaller than what's already been proposed out there.
I appreciate the information because looking at the concept is one thing, when people buy them and are owners and that property line issue, in tight spaces like that, it can cause ongoing displeasure, not necessarily unfriendliness, but displeasure between owners. So the more space between the buildings, I think, the better. Okay. In tight spaces like that,
Sure.
especially. May I ask you in terms of why the basement option went away? At least, for some designated sites?
Yeah, I think for two reasons, but the original site was actually engineered and approved for slabs. So that's what was actually built on site. So the pads were designed for slab construction for one. So they've already been graded to that elevation to handle a slab and compacted to handle the slab. And number two, I mean, just with the size of the units we have, almost 1,800 square feet, we felt that was the right square footage and ultimately cost and price point to meet the market.
Okay. Are there any sites where a basement would fit though?
Well, like I said, the site was actually engineered for slabs. I mean, in theory, you could build a basement as long as, we kept the same type of foundation and I don't think there's, I'm aware of anything from an engineering perspective that would affect the ability to build a basement. It would just be a matter of, there need to be additional, there would be extra excavation on the dirt, and so forth.
Right.
That needs a home, for that, considering that's not how they were designed.
And it would affect the cost, but,
Oh yeah, the cost of the basement would certainly be additional.
yeah.
Okay, if there's no other comments or questions, I'll look for a motion.
I would move we approve this, I gotta find it again. 2020-009, final plat for Unit 3 of the Balmorhea subdivision by Ryan Holmes.
A second?
Marion Bonds?
Nope, we need a second.
Oh, I
Oh,
thought.
I second.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking about it.
Okay,
Thank
motion
you.
is second.
Marion
Ruth.
Bonds? Tom Yukitis?
Yes.
Mike Hammond?
Yes,
Mildred McNeil James?
Yes.
Joe Young?
Yes.
Thank you.
and this will be on the agenda for the village board meeting on Monday, October 12th.
Great. Thank you all.
Thank you.
They present well, Mr. Sheldon.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Next item on the agenda is community development update and new business. Planner Chipman.
Yes, I've kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but we will be looking towards a special zoning board of appeals meeting. We're targeting October 22nd for that. So I'll get you some more information on that here in the near future. That is my update for this evening.
Great, thank you. The commissioners have anything, or? If not, okay, next meeting is November 5th. Potentially, ZBA is October 22nd. Otherwise, the next plan commission meeting is scheduled for November 5th, 2020. And we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mike. And Jared
Thank you.
and everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Jared.
Thanks.
Very well.
Thanks, Brandon. Tim, everybody.
Thank you.
Have
Bye.
a good evening. Bye.
Have a good evening. Thanks, Chris.